and where we can fit it in our data center.
On a predictable basis.
Should help with that.
Okay, we've gone through this in a fairly rapid progression of thought here, but if you have any questions for Tom or I, please. I think Tom's experience is the most important part here, and what he's gone through with these remote sites I think is well done. And he's also growing new stores quite rapidly, so if there are any questions, please feel free.
Questions for Panduit from the floor, please, and Cabela's.
Pitt Turner, Uptime Institute. After you finish a project, I've always found it informative to look backwards and simply say, if you were to do this again, what would you do differently? And what would you be sure to not do again?
As far as building the new data center, or the retail stores, or
the data center, the story you tell about your data center, what would you not want to do again because it didn't work out as well as you thought, and what would you be sure to exploit on the next project because it was just a slam good thing?
Yeah, I can't say really anything too negative. We had an awesome design and architectural team. Our engineers were wonderful on this data center, and actually this is one of the best projects I've ever been on. The one thing that I would change if I were doing it again is the security cameras and the security system that we currently use. I personally would have gone above and beyond what we did. So we put in a very nice layer of security, but I think we could have done more. Obviously, it cost more money, but I really wanted to kind of get into some of the infrared type cameras and some of maybe the bleeding edge security stuff out there. That would be my major one. And the only other thing in this data center I changed was we bid the low voltage in 2 different packages. So there's a 8-person office building to the side of this data center, and that was bid with a construction package. And the data center low voltage was bid as a separate package. I would have not done that construction package. I would have done it all as one. Those are the couple things I would have changed.
I also think Tom took advantage of a lot of the pre-engineered approaches that we've talked about in the past, pre-engineered solutions, particularly relative to the network transmission area and the physical infrastructure and the cabinets.
Yeah.
And that pre-engineering, I think, does a lot to speed deployment. It also does a lot to prevent mistakes and bring the data center up a lot faster.
You know, we arrange this data center in a pod architecture. So, you know, and I'm not advocating that, but it works out very well. I think it worked very well for us, and the design with the low volt fits in that just perfectly. Especially, you know, with this new stuff coming up, the V-Blocks and the VMware and all this brand new stuff that Cisco and EMC and IBM and everybody has coming along, fit about anything in there.
If you look at the overall technology, integration kinds of things you did, what would be the one single recommendation you would give to your peers in the audience that, you know, if you're going to go do this, you really need to approach this area because?
I would say the consistency of the end-to-end design. I see a lot of companies out there that don't, you know, and that's one of the reasons when I said earlier we picked Panduit a year ago. There are some companies out there that have that comes just an awesome fiber design and how they handle that, and there's companies that have awesome copper design for low voltage and how they handle that. But when we looked at all of them, there was really Panduit was one of the few that had a design for everything. So that end-to-end connectivity, our old wiring closets, our old data center has fiber and copper spaghetti like many you've seen out there, and I didn't want that in the new data center. I don't want to ever get to that again. So that end-to-end upfront design, everything's done. That copper and fiber should never ever be touched again. The only thing we have to worry about now is the patch cables, keeping them clean. So I'd say that continuity from end to end was one of the big things for me.
Okay, thank you. I have one last question. What kind of bugs are hatching and what kind of flies should we have? We're going fly fishing this afternoon?
Well, I'll tell you what, The fly fishing, where I fly fish in Wyoming's a little off right now. The North Platte River's way above its capacity, and they keep letting out the water, so it's moving so fast we haven't been able to fish this spring.
Very good.
Mark Acton, Uptime. So I think we all recognise that hardware asset management, particularly at moves, adds and changes, are particularly challenging in everyday storage environment, particularly remotely. With the PIM software, obviously you've got a very good product there that's helping you do that remotely. But have you chosen to integrate that into some form of CMDB, and how did that go?
Integrate that into what now?
A CMDB.
Configuration.
Oh, we have not done that yet. That's something we have looked at. We haven't had time.
Okay, thank you.
That's a very good point. I think what we're seeing, what Panduit is seeing, is that is a strong move, is to move the physical infrastructure elements into the configuration management database to help seamlessly deploy new applications and technology to ensure that the physical infrastructure is considered along with all of the application itself. To do that completely end-to-end without fault, the physical infrastructure needs to be considered, particularly as we begin to press the physical infrastructure to higher performance and higher densities, higher rates of virtualization, different network architectures that are going to be required to transport more and more video content. They're going to require lower latency, more non-blocking architectures. So as we do that, I believe that kind of consideration for the physical infrastructure is going to be important. That was a great question. I appreciate that.
Go ahead, please.
One question. Lee Cooper from PG&E. I was wondering, in your role, how much visibility do you have into the IT equipment and how efficiently that's being used? I mean, it looks like you have plenty of room to grow. Does that mean there's less pressure to, squeeze the most out of your servers?
Yeah, we're looking right now at the rack level. So we don't have as far as power and cooling go, we're just doing a rack level monitoring. We haven't delved into the individual server. So that's the level we're at. It's working out pretty well for us. Did that answer your question?
Yep, thanks.
Anyone else? Okay. Oh, please, Andy. You're going to have to run.
While Andy's going up, I'll ask a question. It's Ken Mill with the InfoPro. You mentioned converged infrastructure before, the Cisco, UCS, the vBlock. What is it about those you think they're going to change your, the way you're building out your infrastructure? And from an organizational perspective, how tightly are you aligned with those architects that are doing the kind of work on that?
We look at all technology all the time, so we got a good group of people looking at that. I think the vBlock in particular is kind of a disruptive technology coming out because it makes the server guys and the network guys work a little closer together, and they don't really like to do that. They kind of like to live in their own little world. As far as the design of it, I think it worked well in that design. We planned a pod that could handle, basically it could handle 4 vBlocks with the Nexus switch in the middle of those and all the connectivity in the middle of that. And if we choose to go down that road, that'll just fit in there very nicely. And if we choose to go down blade server, exact same thing. The connectivity is in the middle, and we can fill the 4 cabinets next to it up with blade servers. Or if we want to go down the individual 1U, 2U, 4U servers, we can do that just as effectively. Basically, the only thing you switch in our environment, the only thing you would switch would be what Cisco switch we put in that middle cabinet, whether it's a Nexus switch or where it has to be or not. So we have some flexibility there.
Andy.
Yeah, excuse me. I've been looking at some of the companies providing the kind of management software and monitoring and so on, such as Panduit has, with PIM being a very good example of it. One of the things I know the suppliers of this software have struggled with generally is finding good customer stories like yourself, and establishing a really clear, structured return on investment case going over several years. And I wonder, now you've put it all in, how do you make sure that you can justify the success of that investment? Are you measuring things like availability and costs and any reduction and so on Do you have a formal way of measuring that going forward?
We actually do not. I'm not required to have a formal way. We're just in the start of this, so I have not worked all that out yet. I think as far as an ROI, first of all, just the tracking of assets. I don't know how you can measure that in money. Because a year from now or 2 years from now, when somebody comes in and says, "Where is that server?" and you got the server guys looking at the network guys, and they're saying, "I don't remember what rack we put it in. Can you ping the thing and tell me what VLAN it's in?" And it's like, oh, geez, guys, somebody keep track of where all this stuff is. So that in itself, I think in the future will save man hours. And you alluded earlier, you said you found it hard to find some stories out there. I think one of the deals with any piece of software, and this isn't just for PIM or for management, but you have to have somebody dedicated to run that. If you buy it and set it on the shelf and put a server in every now and then, or maybe you're good at putting your servers in, but you're not good at tracking it, eventually that thing goes to the wayside and nobody uses it anymore. So you've really got to get somebody dedicated to keep that up to date every day, or whatever. Whenever you make a change in that data center, you've got to do it first on the software and then go do it physically, or however you want to do it. You've got to keep that. You got to have somebody dedicated to that, and we do have a person dedicated to that in our scenario. So again, we're in the infancy stages of this. 6 months, I'll be able to tell you how he's doing.
Okay, thanks.
A last question. Anyone? One of the things I really enjoyed about this session is it is so good to just hear in a very low-key, no-hype way the very practical experience of an end user. So, Tom, thank you for being willing to sit on this stage and join us. Jack, thank you for guiding him through that. It's where we all get great value in these sessions. So, much appreciated.
Thanks,
Gentlemen.
Jack. Thank you.